Hi, friends. This is Archangel. We must necessarily devalue males in order to morally justify their expendability. Yet, why do males themselves fail to help other males? From the earliest of ages, males are taught to suck it up and protect. They are taught to put their personal discomforts on the back burner and protect the womenfolk. They are told to hide their pain and emotion, for emotion is weakness, and they are expected to be strong. Everybody needs them to be strong. As a result, males are notoriously good at hiding their pain and suffering. It's so disingenuous how people will act shocked when a male descends into debilitating depression or addiction. People exclaim astoundment when a male they know commits suicide. "Oh, I had no idea. He seemed all right. Sure, he had a vicious breakup or divorce, or a few rough days here and there, but he seemed fine. Besides, guys usually snap out of it and bounce back." Some people genuinely do not see male pain. Most, however, do not want to see male suffering. Males are so conditioned to marginalize their discomfort, taught to suck it up and hide their pain. So obviously, they are expert at hiding their suffering. And when the pain becomes insurmountable, males fix it permanently. Males like to fix problems, unlike females who want to talk of hardships more for attention and sympathy than resolution. Most males hide their pain and deal with it out of public sight, as they have always been instructed to do. Or they will find temporary fixes through vice, where they find expression for their torment through boisterous activities, such as going to the bar and getting into fights. And since unruly rambunctiousness is considered normal male behavior, thus under cover of normal male activities is where guys hide and vent their pain. The pain they have been taught to swallow and marginalize. Trained to do this by cowardly adults who simply chastise boys to man up, even though they are not men. Most were children barely familiar with the alphabet when they started being indoctrinated with all this suck it up and man up indoctrination. Males are taught to be ashamed of being weak, to be embarrassed of hurting. Boys are humiliated when they cry in public, or at school or on the playground, and people will turn away or make fun of them or avoid a crying boy like he had the plague, whereas parents, teachers, classmates rush to the side of a crying girl. We abuse males, and they feel pain. Then we punish them for the pain that they feel because we abuse them. This is how twisted and cruel male existence is. And then, to top it all off, when young males feel pain and cry, adult males commonly took off their belt and said, "You want to cry? I'll give you something to cry about," as adult males whipped juvenile males. This is the traditionalism of the grand old days that conservatives long for, where males were told to suck it up and beaten or disowned if they failed to do so. And because of such tough love training, well, golly gee, everything has turned out so swell. Males are still denied humanity. They are simply robots to serve the infantilized females. I have never ever heard a story about a parent instructing a little girl to suck it up and then whipping her just because she cried. This is wholly a male injustice and abuse of our boys. We train them to be obedient slaves and to hide their pain. Maybe this is one reason some males cling so fiercely to females, because in the traditionalist paradigm of females playing the sweet, demure role of the loving half of the parental head, thus a mother is more consoling to boys than fathers, and boys grow up resenting fathers for this. Hence, males learn to confide their pain in females and away from males, though they do not realize that females, deep down, resent males for their human weakness, and for confiding this weakness in females, since males are supposed to be the rocks that females can lean on, not the other way around. Now, I am not saying coddle boys, but afford them the same treatment that we do girls. I mean, come on, if making kids suck up hurts and hide their pain produces such strong adults, then let females cry alone in the dark, so they will be stronger adults as well. Yeah, we would not think to treat little girls this carelessly. And so, obedient males act stoic and hide their suffering and frustrations in such activities where people will not suspect they are hurting, because hurting would make them appear weak, and weakness is not something we tolerate from males. Weakness is something we beat into males not to show. You see, males do not simply take to bar hopping or fighting or reckless casual sex because it is in their nature. Rather, they are acting out and simply using vice to numb pain. The reason it seems that more males than females take to these activities is because males are devalued and disposed of, and females are elevated and worshipped. Duh, of course we are going to have more males than females hurting, because they are mistreated, which translates to wave after wave of hurting, discouraged males looking to bury their hurts in the same way that many other hurting males vent. The tried and true path of drinking, fighting, and general rebellion that generation after generation use as an escape from pain. Pain resultant from devaluation. Yet, male suffering is there if we would choose to see it, but we do not want to see it, nor concede our brutal mistreatment of the male sex. And even if we admitted male suffering, we would simply justify it, as we always have. But why? How could we possibly see pain or suffering and do nothing? Why do we see males with cardboard signs and keep driving? Why do we see injustice and block it out? Why do we just close our eyes to the hurting masses? This is multitudinous, but essentially we turn a blind eye to suffering because emotional involvement is energetically expensive. Because of reproductive biology, we use males as lesser beings of utility, and we cannot afford them compassion, lest we admit their unfair usury. And then, who would fight the wars or do the heavy lifting? We can't admit the suffering of the oxen, for who, then, would plow the fields? No. There is no male suffering, since males are tools. Tools do not hurt. They labor ceaselessly to failure, ultimately to be tossed out with the other refuse upon breakage. We must necessarily devalue males in order to morally justify their expendability. Yet, why do males themselves fail to help other males? Males know how to hide pain, and thus they should see the signs of other males hiding pain. So why do males not help each other? Females give refuge to males and a shoulder to cry on if it serves the female agenda. Why do males not help one another out of true, unadulterated empathy and compassion, the kind that only males seem capable of? Well, for one, males are too wrapped up in their own trauma and suffering. Also, to see other males suffering would be to admit that their gynocentric worldview and paradigm are propped upon falsehoods. In other words, it would be to admit that their fairy tales are a sham. And 3, because males in general are propagandized as murdering, raping plunderers. So males are made to believe that they deserve to suffer for male sins, and that to endure abuse is to be a man. And so when males see other males suffering, they automatically reason that he deserves it. He is simply repaying humanity for male evils. We all are, through our servitude to females. This is programmed indoctrination, which leads to purposeful ignorance. Males love make-believe and practice it daily. If males can pretend that males do not suffer, if they can pretend that males are not devalued, or if they can reason that males somehow deserve usury or mistreatment, then they can pretend that they will be different, the exception, and hence they can go on believing that their female-centered world is still valid. But even amongst those that are awakened, that care about male injustice, even caring males shy away from their brothers because the pain is overwhelming. I used to see males that needed a friend, guys who had just had their heart ripped out, sad males whom I now know were obvious casualties of gynocentrism. Yet to my purple pill mind, I was in confusion. And rather than help them or spend time with them, I would just tell them, "Oh, I'm sorry, that sucks," and then leave them to fend for themselves. The ignorant and enslaved do this all the time. Even though they clearly recognize male suffering, they nevertheless turn a blind eye to it, for many reasons. The most obvious being that if they were to acknowledge mistreatment, it would shatter their fairy tales of female benevolence and pure romance. 2. Concluding male mistreatment, their conscience would require them to take action, to do something about it, lest they be seen as weak or impotent in the face of injustice, and males do not like to be seen as either. 3. Standing up to male devaluation is expensive. It could mean ostracization from the pack, which survives off male disposability. And 4. Having sympathy or empathy for male suffering, well, it would ultimately hurt. Because, you see, caring for others is emotionally taxing, since their pain becomes your pain. And in an existence where pain is everywhere, obviously, humans try to avoid pain as much as possible. Avoiding pain is a survival technique. People have their own pain. Why should they take on everyone else's? They try to get as many little bits of pleasure as they can before they are pushing up daisies. And taking on more emotional tumult is not in the game plan. Moreover, pain is not uniform. Physical pain comes and goes much more expeditiously than emotional pain. Emotional pain lingers and seems to be more taxing in the long run. Males know that they are devalued and marginalized, yet to the general populace of white knights or players or simps, living without their perfumed addictions would cause them more pain to give up than to continue enduring being a doormat. Males are so tired of pain. Pain is everywhere, waiting for them because of what they are. And so otherwise caring, compassionate males grow calluses towards male pain in order to justify not helping. They don't want more heartache to deal with. They have enough already. Because males are so disadvantaged and abused, even if the male is a close family member. A father putting his hand on his son's shoulder and saying, "Yeah, it sucks, but we have to take it like men." Such moments of man-up shaming, this is what passes for male camaraderie these days. How disgusting is that? We don't comfort hurting males. We shame them into further servitude. So, whether a loved one or a stranger, males try to steer clear of the pain of a fellow brother. Males leave each other with their own pain, whereas we bend over backwards to hold females, kiss away their hurts, and tuck them into bed with lullabies. Males growing indifferent to the suffering of other males is partly a survival tactic and partly a coping mechanism. And just how is ignoring male suffering a survival mechanism? Well, the two quick and easy answers are that when you care about another, you will put yourself in harm's way for them. And being in harm's way is not a good place to realize individual survival. Also, if you care about someone and speak out about their mistreatment, you make yourself a target for abuse as a sympathizer. And this threatens individual survival as well, which is why otherwise good folks kept their mouths shut as KKK did lynchings, or as Japanese Americans were put into prison camps during World War II, or as folks with crosses on their shields killed friends and neighbors who would not convert to the new religion during the Middle Ages. People keep their heads down around injustice, lest they allow caring to threaten personal survival. These are the obvious ways in which caring threatens. But there are other avenues. Understand that everything is energy, and hence emotion is an actual form of energy. Even if you see emotion as chemical exchanges or electrons moving around the body or brain, still emotions are energy in some form. Furthermore, it takes energy to make all these neural messengers and move them around. So energy is paramount. Energy is life, in one form or another. And so adequate energy is needed for survival, to fuel bodily functions, both physical and psychological. Thus, emotional energy is very real, and emotional pain creates a vacuum of energy away from healthy bodily functionings and prioritizes extra resources into dealing with the emotion of psychological trauma. Now, this can affect survival in terms of energy depletion and distraction when you are wrapped up in despair, because you are neither attentive nor at your physical best to escape environmental threats. Moreover, there is the restatement of the second law of thermodynamics, which essentially says that your body will get away with the smallest energy expenditure possible needed to maintain functions and to keep entropy at bay. Nature wants to conserve energy and does not expend more than is needed for any particular task. So at any given time, we have individual unique psychological stressors and energy demands, yet our body has averaged out all functions and we have our own individual energetic equilibriums. If you are to internalize the pain of others by caring for them, you increase your own stressors, which will demand an increase in energy to offset the increase in stressors. And in a system of fixed energy, we must take energy away from bodily health or maintenance and funnel it towards emotional upheaval, which allows entropy to also rise. And entropy is chaos. It would cause the dissolution of health if left unchecked. And this is why people tend to eat more when they are depressed or suffering. The body needs more energy in order to direct to the emotional drain, and so it seeks increased energy from food. Emotional sorrow is very energetically taxing, and adequate energy is necessary for survival. Think about it. What happens when you really cry buckets, or you have to deal with a devastating funeral? You just feel drained, don't you? Tired. Emotion is energy, and sadness is that much of an energy drain. This is why children will cry themselves to sleep. Sadness and suffering drain energy, and energy loss drains physical vitality. Now, how is ignoring male suffering a coping mechanism? Okay, so I care about animals, yet every time I go to the animal shelter and I see row after row of caged dogs, all barking and wagging their tails for me, all deserving of beautiful homes and freedom, yet all being caged because they were born and now they are unwanted, this causes me sadness. I want to open my heart to each one, to play with each one. But I find myself not even approaching or not making eye contact with anyone for too long because I do not want to give them false hope. I do not want to pet them for a minute, only to turn my back and then leave them in a cage to suffer simply because they exist. Every time I go to the animal shelter, I come away just heartbroken at the sorrow and suffering of these wonderful creatures. Other people have told me the same thing, that they come away from animal shelters just drained. And so we find ourselves avoiding animal shelters. But how could we? If we really cared about them, we would be doing all we could for them, to help them, right? The problem is, there are so many. We can't spend time with or adopt them all, and the faces of those we fail to help haunt us. We avoid the pain of others as a coping mechanism, since we are so overwhelmed by the ugliness, the pain, the injustice of life, so overcome with hopelessness at the mass abuse that we simply stop paying attention to it and focus on individual survival. We feel so impotent in the face of such monumental problems that, to protect our personal, mental, and emotional well-being, we simply turn off our attentions, and eventually the concern drifts away. Somebody else can help the homeless dude with the cardboard sign, or the injured vet, or the suicidal divorcee. This is what we do with males especially. Otherwise good, caring, compassionate males will turn a deaf ear to the ripe pain spawned by devaluation because the suffering of fellow brothers is so great and the problem is so epidemic that we are overwhelmed by the enormity of it. And so emotional defenses kick in to turn our attentions away from suffering in order to protect emotional well-being and specific individual energetic equilibrium. Emotional investment, caring about another, indeed even sympathy and empathy, all are energetically intensive and expensive, and thus disassociating with mass pain is a tactic of individual care. Emotional investment in others is expensive and painful, and of course, there is the obvious costs of caring about male suffering. We might start treating them better and caring about them as beings, and then who would protect and serve? Who would labor and die? Who would pull society's plow if we started caring about society's cattle? Oh, no, 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 no. Caring about males is not an acceptable societal option, for we would lose our enslaved laborers, who prop and maintain this lifestyle of ease, convenience, smartphones, SUVs, and drive-through food that soccer moms and raging butch feminists alike have grown accustomed to. So, losing our male slaves would be an obvious cost of caring about males. But males taking more pain than they already have, and the energetic cost to themselves, as well as the haunting sadness of random male faces suffering, well, this is also overwhelming to males already suffering individually from gynocentrism, that males simply avoid the animal shelter as a means of coping with the cruelties of life. However, there are benefits. Taking on the pain or exercising caring towards close pack members, such as family, friends, co-workers, etc. This strengthens connections within the pack, which lends rigidity to the pack in general, and thus strengthens survival. This is why many communities show caring towards their own. Furthermore, you have to see the pain to be motivated to do anything about it. Then you must realize that you cannot save the world. You can only make a difference in your little corner. So observe the suffering of others and allow it to motivate you to action. Yet do not set your sights on solving everything, for you only will set yourself up for disappointment. If you simply help one other being, you have been a success. If you merely help yourself out of slavery, if you only succeed in awakening yourself, then you have been a success. There is gold beyond measure in helping others, in fighting injustice. There is redemption in caring for the suffering of others, for it reveals your true identity. And the people that you help will swear that they can see the halo around your head. Friends, do not turn your back on male suffering and injustice. Rise against. Stand with me, live free.